right. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call the meeting of the Public Safety Committee to order. Let the record reflect, I will let each member identify themselves, starting with Alderman Rote.
Here?
Can you just state Alderman Rote's here?
What's that?
Your name.
Your name.
Oh, Dan Road, 4th District. I'm
All right.
sorry.
Ray Turner, First District.
Suzette Grisham, Chair.
Kevin Haas, 5th District.
Okay. Item C, we need a motion for approval of minutes from the June 25th, 2024 Public Safety Meeting.
I move approval.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, I am so sorry. Let the record reflect that Alderman Halverson is here via Zoom. So good evening, Alderman Halverson. I'm so sorry. So we have all of our committee members here. Forgive me. Okay, we have item number 2, 2024-0543, which is a discussion regarding discipline strategies for retail alcohol licenses who violate the laws applicable to their licenses. I'm going to start this out with letting all you know in the audience that take note, we're going to have 2 hearings tonight, but there were 8 others that were requested to come to this meeting this evening, not under a summons and complaint, but because we have some concerns. Of those that we requested to be here, there's only 3 of the 8 here. Some gave viable reasons to not attend, some just didn't call back. That's very discerning for us as a committee.
Madam Chair, I believe there's 4 out of the 8.
There's 4 of the 8?
Yes.
Okay, my apologies.
Yep.
Thank you, Nick. So I just want to take note that anybody who's going to view this, anybody in the bar industry right now, I know you all talk amongst yourselves, it's very important that we talk about things that are concerning us as a committee. So if you are invited to council, I would appreciate, and we would appreciate that you take the time to do so, because the last thing we want to see is you here a second time. So getting to business, each month we receive information, usually from the West Dallas PD, and there's compliance checks that take place at randomly chosen establishments, and again, they're conducted by the West Dallas PD. The PD notifies the council of trends and/or violations, so each month we get a report. Of the last 2 months, 8 of 10 compliance checks failed in the city, and that was in April. In June, 10 of 10 failed, which means all those that were requested to appear here this evening allegedly served alcohol to minors. At this time, the council has serious concerns that there is a trend happening here, and it's pertaining to those who carry liquor licenses and just following the law and our ordinances. As a courtesy, we're not going to name each establishment who allegedly violated these state statutes. However, this is a firm warning and a reminder to all of you that these alleged violations, if they continue, your liquor license may be in jeopardy. So there's no question that we want your business to succeed. And this issue, in my opinion, and I'm going to speak for the rest of the committee on this, is that it's an easy fix. Check IDs. Bottom line. And there's no excuse for not checking IDs, nor are we going to accept shifting the blame to the bartenders, because bottom line, the buck stops with you and how you operate your business. So my suggestion is that you review your business policies to eliminate the problem. We don't want to see you here before us again, period. So I'm going to wish you all well. I thank you for those who came and for those that are listening in. I'm going to offer the floor to the committee members who may want to add anything to this. And after you speak, I'm going to pass it back to our prosecuting attorney, Nick Serwin. Does anybody wish to speak?
No, you said it, Madam Chair.
I do not.
Okay.
No.
All right. It's back to you, Nick.
Thank you. And if I may, Madam Chair, and feel free to interrupt at any point in time, but I've spoken with a few of you today already, either here or on the phone. My job as the prosecutor is when the police department brings information to me, I aggregate information and present it to the committee in a summons complaint fashion. The goal, from my perspective, as a prosecutor across the board, is to change behaviors, right? Whether it's going to be through enforcement or through working together. And so I think right now we have 2 complaints set for today, which we'll address momentarily, but the remainder is this is a golden opportunity to get a heads up of, hey, we know that the police department does these checks. They're going to continue to happen. Clearly, they're pretty successful at this point from a negative standpoint. And so we got to be on alert. And so that's what I want to impart, right, is that, hey, we have some big, great, fantastic businesses that got swept up in this one. Let's have these businesses be the example of how to do it better going forward, as opposed to having this trend continue. One thing I want to point out is that when there's these undercover operations, the way the law works is you get 2, okay, before we can do anything. So right now, a lot of bars, 18 in the last 2 months, are on their 1 strike. You only get 2 strikes before you're coming in here on an enforcement action. I'm sure the bars that are in here right now on the enforcement action wish they had a meeting or a chance to have this meeting before and revamp things. And so this is the chance, right, for those other bars. We did, and if you want to see an example of how these go down, we did just have a hearing for a different bar, and so you can find that on YouTube, on the city's website, and see exactly how that hearing process works and what those penalties are. For what it's worth, what the law says is there has to be a penalty somewhere between 10 and 90 days. The outcome of that one you can find on again, YouTube. But I just want to, I'm pointing this out as again, hopefully a benefit. This isn't a hearing today. There's no evidence being presented. There's nothing along these lines that nobody's in trouble today of this first group. And so use it as a catalyst to talk with your employees to say, hey, not only is your job in jeopardy, but the bar could have some problems if you don't just ask for ID, right? So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you for the opportunity to talk briefly, and I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Attorney Serwin. For those that were asked to be here, if you'd like to stay, you're welcome to. Otherwise, you don't have to stay, just to let you know. Moving along, we're going to go to item 3, 2024-0537, summons and complaint against Ekbar LLC, doing business as Ekbar, 7408 West Walker Street, agent Melanie Kukas. Come up, Melanie, thank you. Did I pronounce the last name correctly? Yes. Thank you.
Just push that little button there. There you go. Oh, tap it again. Just push it hard. There you go.
Okay, Ms. Kukas, the purpose of you coming this evening is to either admit or deny the allegations against your establishment and you as an agent. And at this time, I'm going to give you an opportunity to admit or deny the charges.
If I can just speak very briefly, Madam Chair. So what the state law says is every licensee gets the opportunity to admit or deny the allegations in the complaint. An admission would eventually or essentially go to, you're saying the items in the complaint are accurate, you can still have a chance to speak. This goes for everybody or anybody. You can still have a chance to speak to what those violations are, what your opinion is of them, or what remedies you've done in the, since that point, but you're not asking the city at that point to present evidence to uphold those, okay? If you deny, then we would set another date for a hearing. Police would come that were involved in whatever was happening and would testify, and then there would be potentially deliberations. Either way, the end of it, well, either way there's going to be deliberations and there's going to be some finding by the committee, depending on whether there's evidence or an admission, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Okay? And so for today's purposes, generally speaking, that's the only thing that happens. We're not asking for any additional information. But it's completely up to the committee on what the process looks like after whatever answer you have at this point. Okay? Do you have any questions?
Nope.
Does the board have any, or committee have any questions?
I do
Okay.
not. Okay.
And I'm only acting as the prosecutor for this instance, and so if there's an admission, for example, and you wanted to proceed today, you could do so, but without representation from me, if that
Okay.
makes sense.
And just to clarify that, we do have on the agenda this evening that we can go into closed session. So I would ask my colleagues to speak up if we would like to kind of clarify this and just take care of it tonight, we have that opportunity to do so. Okay? All right, back to you, Ms. Kukas.
Unfortunately and disappointingly, I have to admit that it was, two of my bartenders in the last year have served alcohol to underage secret ops, underage minors. And we have, one was last, I believe it was like fall of last year, and the other one was just like a month or two ago. I think it was maybe 2 months ago, like May. I don't have my paperwork in front of me. I have stressed multiple times. I've been a bartender in West Dallas for the last 20 years, and I've not had any violations on mine, so it's really important to me and obviously to my establishment to make sure that my employees are not serving underage minors. So my answer to your question is yes, I am not denying it, and I have to accept what was done.
Okay.
Madam Chair, could I clarify one point then?
Yes, please.
So you had identified that there was 2 underage sales, and you're admitting those portions. The complaint has what I will identify as 6 counts, a few of those being noise complaints. December 8th, noise complaint, March 2nd, noise complaint, March 31st, noise complaint, and then May 31st, noise complaint. Are those also part of your admission, or are those ones that you'd rather set for a hearing?
Well, can I grab my paper?
Yeah. If that's okay, sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. So on the days that those were, the noise complaints we're in a neighborhood, unlike a lot of other bars. So unfortunately, we're tucked in a neighborhood, and what the level of noise complaint is, I feel varies based on the complaint. I'm not sure if they were 4 separate callers or if they were one person in the neighborhood that has something against the bar because they're, without throwing any other bars under the bus, the neighborhood is busier than it used to be because my bar is busier. So I'm not sure if it's just one person or 4, but regardless, all 4 of the times have been on a karaoke night. And all of them were Thursdays. One of them was a Sunday, and that Sunday was for a 50th birthday party that we did have karaoke there. My neighbors in the neighborhood, I work with them all, I talk to them all. If I have to have witnesses or people in the neighborhood, they're more than willing to come in and say that I have it under control. We don't have fights, we don't have police calls for riotous behavior, and that's when I'm accepting or denying that the words that the charge that was in here or the complaint in here said riotous behavior. It's not that. It's not even loud music more than anything. It's the bass that's been provided by the karaoke guy. We have taken steps to ensure that the bass is not loud. We have a decibel reader that we walk outside. We adhere to that. We have until 10 o'clock to be able to play music, to a level that is based on our entertainment permit. I've done the steps to make sure that doesn't happen. Unfortunately, when you're bartending, and unfortunately on these days, you don't realize, because when you have karaoke and you have a bunch of people and the bass is louder, you're not really hearing that, which is a poor excuse because everything is loud. But when it has come to our attention, I've immediately turned it down. It hasn't happened, more than what has been listed in here. So was there an issue? Has there been an issue? Yes, 4 times out of the 3 years that I've been open. All of them have been addressed, and we've done the steps. But to label it as riotous behavior, I'm not agreeing to that amount. I will agree to the incidents have happened, but riotous behavior is a far-fetched from what it is.
Attorney Serwin, would you mind going into an answer on that as far as our ordinance and how it's written? Thank you.
Yeah, the state statute regulates this whole process, and so that's the exact language in the statute. Indecent or disorderly or riotous, indecent or improper house is just kind of the catch-all term for some other type of violation that might be like disorderly. So that could include fights, that could include loud music. Nobody's alleging that you were riotous, for what it's worth. It's just the music was
That's
loud.
why I'm like, wait a second.
The music was loud, and that's how the statute categorizes that broad type of violation. Not that it's a riot, but it could be any of those four things: disorderly, riotous, indecent, or improper.
And who determines what it, so we have, say we have someone in the neighborhood, which has been known to make complaints. And they come, they are like, you know what, Akbar, we don't want them in our neighborhood, even though it's been a bar for years. If they continue to call and they continue to call and they continue to call, am I the nuisance or are they the nuisance at that point? And do you know what I'm saying? Like, who determines that? There's one time in here that it states in here that the police officer came and said that he did notice he could hear the music from across the street, and that was on the day that there was the birthday party, and it was at 7:30 at night. All the other times, it doesn't state in here that they'd heard it.
Melanie, if I may interject,
Yeah.
I think collectively as a committee, when things like this are brought to us, we can identify such things through the hearing, as you're explaining.
Right.
Because those are the questions we would have. I think at this juncture, if we want to solve this issue tonight without having to go to hearing or not,
Yeah.
or even have another meeting with us, I think we just need to kind of condense that.
Okay. And are
So
they
if you
two
deny,
separate?
if you deny those, I believe then, Attorney Serwin, we would have to go to summons or a hearing.
Correct, yes.
And are they two separate? So like the licensing for, or the underage serving the alcohol and the noise complaints, I know it's all in one thing on here, but can I say, I agree to that, and this I'd rather challenge, or is it, I have to either agree or disagree to the whole entire thing?
Madam Chair, could I answer that?
Please do.
From my perspective, they are two violations or two different statutory violations. One is the underage sales, one is the disorderly, riotous, indecent, or whatever the other one was. You could admit to one part and not admit to the others, correct?
Okay.
If you think something of those is accurate, if you say counts, just an example, 1, 2, 5, and 6, I admit to, I don't admit to, whatever the other ones were, you can do that as well and just have chunks that you agree that occurred if you were there and remember turning the volume down or something like that. So you can pick and choose at this point. The committee then can decide at that point if there are some noise violations that you agree to. They can say, okay, we're not going to consider those ones that you've denied at this point, and we're not going to set those for a hearing because we're going to resolve 1, 3, and 5, and 6 today, or whatever it's going to be.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep, that makes
Okay.
sense.
Does that
And I
make sense
think-
for the committee?
Yes, yes. And Melanie, Attorney Serwin hit the nail on the head.
Okay.
There's things that if you spoke to this evening, we obviously understand.
Yeah, perfect. So I will agree to, obviously, the underage, because that's inevitable, but I'd like to talk further about the noise complaints.
Okay. And if it is okay with the committee to proceed forward, I think we could wrap this up this evening. Is there any objection to that?
No, no objection.
Okay, all right. So, thank you.
For the record then, so you're not admitting to any of the noise complaints, right? Do you want to look at them? I just want to make sure I'm clear what the committee has available to discuss. Count 2
I would-
was, go ahead.
I would like to discuss all of them, because I want to know what is considered a noise complaint.
Okay.
And so I would like more information and more to discuss those further.
Okay, so the noise ones are denial.
Yes.
Okay.
So Attorney Serwin, then we'd have to have a separate action on that at another time?
It would be up to, from my perspective as the prosecutor, it would be up to the committee if you want to just act alone on the underage sales and disregard for the time being the noise complaints, or just dismiss those altogether at this point and not have any hearing on those. You can act on any admissions at this point and decide how we want to proceed on the other ones, whether it's just call it a wash or proceed to a hearing.
Okay, however, if we had questions relative to the noise, are we allowed to ask those questions, being there's a denial in place?
Not at this
So
point.
that's the crux we're at, Melanie, on that. We can't resolve that issue. Is somebody, okay, go ahead. Alderman Haas, go ahead.
do that.
That's, oh, you didn't? Okay.
I didn't know.
Okay, that's all right. And that would be what I would like to see happen tonight, but I'm not going to force your hand or convince you one way or the other as far as the noise, unless we're willing to dismiss it and not be able to hear evidence to it.
Okay.
I don't think we collectively would just say we're going to dismiss it.
Okay.
Based on just the few things that you said. We may, it could be concisely dealt with.
Okay.
At this time. And I would. Am I on now? Okay. That would be my suggestion, but like I said, I'm not trying to convince you one way or the other. I just would like to be able to act upon it and
If we
let you
can-
run your business.
Yeah, if we want to move forward, I'm completely against, or I'm completely for whatever you suggest and whatever we need to do to be able to. I don't want to waste your time or waste my time either.
Right, and my thought is, okay, on the record, there's alleged 6 noise complaints.
I think there's 4.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
4.
there's
Even with
4.
that being said, it's on the record, police have, responded to it. You admitted that in some instances you dealt with it. So that would just be my recommendation, because we can nip it in the bud.
Yeah, that's fine. We can go
Okay.
ahead and do that too.
All right, with that being said, is everyone in favor of moving forward with any questions? Okay. All right, Melanie, you admitted basically that there's been 2 occasions that
Yep.
a bartender in your establishment has served underage. My question to you is this the same bartender?
It is not.
It is not?
No, it is
Okay.
not the same bartender. And they have all, we have signs posted now all over the bar, right at the front door. It says, have your ID ready, we ID, take it as a compliment. All of my bartenders, I let them know, like, hey, you don't ID and you're fired. Like, there's no if, ands, or buts about it. I don't care if you're my daughter. I don't care if you're whatever. It cannot happen anymore because I can't risk my business. They have all signed new paperwork where they're acknowledging it, they've dated it, they've done all of those things. I've expressed to all of my customers, I've posted it on Facebook, I've done those things where I've said, hey, you know what, we're not messing around. Like, if you want to, if you don't have an ID, we can't serve you. And so it's obviously 1 time is bad, 2 times is horrible. And we've cleaned up that bar and got the riffraff out and all of that stuff and made it a neighborhood bar that people actually want to come to. And I'm not willing to risk what I've put into it and the neighborhood's put into it for somebody who's underage. So,
Okay. That sounds very reasonable to me, that you made some concerted effort and action on it. Now, there were 2 violations. I think you mentioned fall was one.
yeah, it was
Attorney Serwin, do you have the dates? if you don't
November
mind?
30th of last year.
November 30th, and then the second was, November 30th, and the second was in
June 18th.
June, correct.
Okay, so we almost have 6.5 months between these violations, okay? All right, you pretty much covered a lot of the questions that I had as far as how you handle the policy going forward, what you're doing to mitigate the issue going forward. Does any of the other council members have any questions related to the underage serving? No? Okay. All right. With that being said, we'll move along to the noise complaints. And for,
Yeah, Madam Chair. Yeah, on the issue of the noise complaints, I think in reading the complaint itself, in each situation, the bartender on duty or Ms. Kukas acted very appropriately and turned down the volume whenever there was a noise complaint. I don't see the noise complaints as being very significant. I would even suggest that we dismiss the noise complaints.
thank you, Alderman Haas. And Alderman Haas stated it as I would. I agree. I understand that when you're in a predominantly residential neighborhood, you could have one neighbor that it's very bothersome to. Somebody just might dislike karaoke that much,
We
There's a
have somebody who's-
different level of appreciation for those sorts of events. However, it is something that we would expect that you address when you get a noise complaint.
Right.
And the officers do. They show up if they can hear it. There's a certain distance. You're doing what you're supposed to do with decibel readings, and you're acknowledging it. So
Right.
what I would suggest going forward is you try to mitigate it. Obviously, you know that these complaints are coming through, even if it's that one person. It makes it difficult. 'Cause
We
like-
have, he's the karaoke, the guy who runs our karaoke, he no longer brings his big subwoofers in.
Okay.
So that's not, we've taken steps to make sure that wasn't it. It's hard too when we have a bar that's directly across the street from us and a couple neighbors in the neighborhood who like to play music loud too, not taking it away from me, but is it me? Is it them? Is it us? Is it all of that stuff? So we've worked really hard to make sure we have people walking down the street with their phones out to recording to see where you can hear things, if you can hear. We've really taken that into.
Sounds like you took a lot of effort. We had that happen one of the nights with our council. We went out to the parking lot because it could be a different song that's playing.
Right.
Or, somebody's ripping
Yeah.
ripping the karaoke.
Yeah.
You know.
So,
And you
but
end
it's
up-
one of those
and you
things
do, you
that-
hear it differently based on sometimes even the song. So
Right.
I commend you on making the efforts to address the problem, and I'm sorry that you're dealing, even if it is with one neighbor. We can appreciate that. So at this time, I do have one question for Attorney Serwin, because we're hearing another complaint. If we choose to go into closed session, should we do this at one time? Or would it be ill-advised that Ms. Kukas wait, and then we can just deliberate on both? Or do we have to go in order?
Completely your prerogative. You can deliberate in open session, you can deliberate in closed session, you could have both happen at the same exact time. In terms of when you go into closed session, it is completely up to you, as long as the record is clear when you're going into closed session and coming out of closed session.
Okay, for the sake of time, I would recommend that we go into closed session with both. So if it's okay with the the committee, and Ms. Kukas, if you could have a seat, we'll proceed with our next item.
Yep,
Okay?
no
All right.
problem.
Thank you,
Thank you, I appreciate it.
thank you.
You
Okay.
brought people with you. Were you intending for them?
Okay, item 4, 2024-0538, summons and complaint against DTR Enterprises LLC, doing business as Studs Pub, 6833 West National Avenue, agent Dean Radis. Good evening, Dean. Good evening. Are we keeping you from golf?
There we go.
No, everybody golfs over there. You heard the drill?
Yes, I certainly
Okay.
did.
And for the record, same thing that Attorney Serwin stated. We would like to know if you admit or deny the allegations of serving underage.
I take full responsibility for what happens at Studs Pub on 69th and National. So, no, I admit to everything and take responsibility for it. And I always say that, the big guy up there, he didn't make any perfect individuals. We all make mistakes. One of the most important things in life is that you got to learn from your mistakes, and that's what I've taken. I've taken steps forward to do that. I've been there 14 years now, never had a problem, and now I kind of let my guard down a little bit. My crowd there is, I got an older crowd, 30 to 90 years old, so I don't get too many young people in there. So, but when we do, we forget, I guess, and I'm embarrassed by it. I didn't get caught in 14 years, and now I got caught twice in the last November and now in June. So we will correct that problem, and I've been there 15 years. I've been in the liquor business for 48 years. So. Maybe I'm getting too old now to. It might be my time to go, but I'm not as sharp as I used to be. But we'll correct the problem, though. There's no question about that.
Okay, with that said, can you give the committee an example as what you've done to correct it?
Signage, you know, and told all my bartenders, you know. I guess, you know, I kind of been thinking about this for the last couple of weeks. Maybe Pick and Save and Walgreens have something there where they card everybody that comes in. It really alleviates the problem. So I've just alerted all my bartenders, even my kitchen staff, that we have to be careful and be alert of minors coming in. And just kind of put signs around the bar, and that's about what I've done, you know. So I will be more vigilant, and it's, I let my guard down. Like I said, I take full responsibility for what happens there, and sometimes I get so involved with some of the things I do, I don't communicate as good as I should. So I've learned from it, and we'll take a next positive step forward.
Okay, thank you. At this time, do any of the other committee members have any questions for Dean?
Madam Chair, could I just do the same kind of question I did before?
Yes, please.
So, Dean, you had said basically the underage violations that were alleged are correct, so that was, I'm on the right. Yeah, that was
Yes.
incident from November 30th, 2023, which we've identified on the complaint as count 2, and then count 4 is June 18th. Those are admissions.
Those are admissions.
Okay.
Yes, definitely.
There's then count 1 and count 3, which reference, first one is an intoxicated male on July 22nd, who was refusing to leave. It sounds like eventually he was.
Well, you know, in that, Nick.
Yeah.
You know, I really think it was a late night customer that might have been walking in the area. I'm there from 10 in the morning till 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. I don't stay late anymore because it's, you know, I go to bed at 9, 10 o'clock now. So, you know, I'm not going to stay there late. But I think it was a customer that came off the street. I know my late night bartender. I know she wouldn't serve him if he was really intoxicated or obnoxious in any way. And he came in, and that's another thing I've done too. I put in some new hours, Sunday through Thursdays now. I close up between 11 and 12 o'clock. And Friday and Saturdays, if we have a little extra business, we'll stay open probably till 1. But I've shortened my hours. Nothing good happens after midnight anyway. So, that particular gentleman, my late night bartender, she doesn't put up with any bull. And she called the guys across the street. She called the boys in blue, and they came over, and he was a problem. On the other account,
That's count 1. So count 1 is a denial, or at least an explanation that obviously your bartender was the one that called the police.
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then count 3 was the other guy that was intoxicated.
The other guy
Yeah.
is a very good friend of mine. He's a wonderful man. I saw the initials, and I know who it was. He's a wonderful man, hardworking man, just a super guy. And along with that, you know, you get up in the morning, you look yourself in the mirror first before you judge anybody else. And we all have problems, whether they be marital problems, whether it be family problems, whatever. And I think this particular gentleman was just kind of relieving some stress and pressure, and I really feel he just didn't want to go home. And it's our fault, and everybody knows him. And he was probably kind of happy to be there, but also some depression. And we got him home. I wasn't there, but I take responsibility. And yeah, he I guess he fell, and his wife called. She's a little tough to deal with. I'll just leave it at that. So But we're at fault. I admit the error and the bad judgment, should we say.
Very good. So I'll take that as an admission to count 2 and 4, and 3 denying count 1. Is that fair? Okay.
On the, you know, on the minor situation, you know, serving the minors, and not that this really makes any difference, you know, I guess my fault. Maybe I didn't communicate with her that well. It was a bartender. She's still with me. All my help's been with me for about 10 to 15 years. Except for her. She had just been with me for about a month or so, and she let her guard down, and I didn't tell her, hey, look, when in doubt, card everybody. The other one, which I was talking to Nick about before, a little bit today, there again, totally my responsibility, or irresponsibility, which just happened in June. We got really busy. It was a Tuesday tacos, and we had 20 to 25 people come in and walk in off the street for a birthday taco party that we didn't, was unannounced. And so I only had one bartender, and I was actually there. And so there again, I take full blame for that. I did talk to Officer Musadi when he gave me the ticket. And we had discussed that, and sometimes it's hard to see a 20-year-old, and you really, and I'm not making excuses, you know, whether he's 6'2", 240, and a full beard, you know, that's where you get into the point of carding everybody, you know, it doesn't matter, you know, just use good judgment, you know. So, like I said, I take responsibility for everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that bartender's not with you anymore from that second one?
She's still with me.
Oh, she is? Okay, the
Yes,
first
she
one
is.
she's not. Okay.
She's actually a very good bartender, and yeah. So I
Okay.
guess that's it. I take, you know, Nick, I take full responsibility for it, so.
Do any of the committee members have any questions related to the other counts? Okay. All right, at this time, I believe that we would need a motion for consideration to go into closed session.
Madam Chair, before we go into closed session, because I'll have to leave for that portion, can I just make my piece real quick?
Yes, please.
Okay. The only thing I would encourage the committee to do, and again, as the prosecutor, I want to make sure that these are bulletproof. That's maybe a bad term, but these are legally sound decisions. Whatever is going to happen is to be consistent with past practice as best as we can. In the past, with a recent one that we had, I'm just not going to name names either. The committee held some time, and I know that's a theory of law that City Attorney Decker has. I can't say for certain yay or nay whether I ascribe to that belief or not, but I think consistency is important, and I believe that the licensees today spoke and kind of gave the committee what you would generally be looking for. I'm not asking to do anything beyond the normal or what we did previously.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, I'm gonna put on these glasses. Shouldn't have had these on. All right, so if you'd like to have a seat, we're gonna probably
Okay,
go
very
into
good.
closed session. Do we have a motion to go into closed session? Oh, okay, that's after I read it out. Okay. All right, for agenda items number 3 and 4, the Public Safety Committee may convene in closed session pursuant to the provisions of Wisconsin Statute Section 1985 1A for the purpose of deliberating concerning a case which was subject of any judicial or quasi-judicial trial or hearing before the governmental body. The Public Safety Committee may reconvene in open session after completion of the closed session to consider the balance of the agenda. Now do we have a motion?
So moved.
All right, is there a second? Okay, there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call vote, thank you, thank you. Alderman Rote?
Aye.
Alderman Turner?
Aye.
Alderman Haas?
Aye.
Alderman Halverson? Aye. And the chair votes aye. We're in closed session.
I move that we come out of closed session.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Let me say that again. Melanie Kukas and Dean, please come forward. We're going to share the facts and findings of what the Public Safety Committee decided as far as hearing your case, and the allegations were serving underage individuals, and there were a couple other things as far as noise complaints, Melanie and Dean, issues of potential over-serving. So we're going to take the top part of it with saying that Attorney Serwin was nail on the head. We as a committee want to be consistent. We need to be consistent. This is a problem. We appreciate that you acknowledged that this had happened and that you're doing things to mitigate the problem, but it doesn't go without some sort of consequence in the committee's opinion. So, and each case is taken individually. However, we do appreciate you coming forward and saying, hey, we want to get ahead of this. You know, Dean, you said, maybe I got a little laxed. You know, maybe I need to review these things, and that's the goal. We don't want to shut you down. We don't want you to lose money, and you're valued in this community, just so you know that. But this is a problem when we have 8 of 10 and then 10 of 10, and that's been consistent over time. So I know the bar community talks amongst themselves too, so take this with you for those that aren't watching, that this is happening and it's real, and I guess if we don't want to get too big and bad, it's new sheriff in town. You know, we want to make sure that the city is doing their due diligence to make sure other things aren't happening, such as over-serving. There's dangers. These kids come in, they can hurt themselves, you know. So I just want to reiterate that we support you. However, we have decided with this particular situation with both Studs and the ECBAR that we are going to give 5-day suspension for your business. However, we have decided that we're going to stay that sentence. And what that means is you do not have to close down right now, but you have 5 days that are going to be hanging over your head until the next licensing period. The stipulation on that will be if you are called back to council or you have any violations such as over-serving, we're not going to pull you in for noise complaints, Melanie, okay? Not to say that we wouldn't, but that part for us is kind of dismissed in our opinion. Dean, you got a buddy, and you spoke very nicely about him, that we need you to be kind of very vigilant to make sure that your bartenders are not over-serving, so nobody hurts themselves. We don't want to find anybody in the bushes. So with that being said, you have a 5-day suspension. It's going to be stayed with conditions that if you have any violations, such as over-serving, serving underage individuals, and I think, is there anything that we would add to it? I think those are the 2 points that we discussed, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and this is effective from here forward to the next licensing period, which is July 2025. Okay? Is there anything you have to say?
Madam Chair, could I'm sorry, before,
Yes.
the way it worked last time with the other bar was the bare minimum that the committee can impose by law is 10 days up to 90 days. So I understand that this is stayed, and it's a 5 days stayed. That's still below, and I think what the committee did was 5 days stayed last time with 15 days. So we were over that
Threshold.
10-day threshold. I don't want to, as the prosecutor, I can't advise you. I'm not trying to advise you, but I would gently object to a 5-day under the law and recommend potentially 10 days stayed. Still the same outcome of no days up front, but then we're in compliance with the statutory requirements of 10 to 90 days. just my,
Yep,
Well-
Madam Chair,
Yes, please.
I move that we follow the recommendation of the Assistant City Attorney and change it from 5 days stayed to 10 days stayed.
Okay, and to clarify, Attorney Serwin is serving as prosecutor, not advisor to the committee. However, that does bring up a point that this is new for us because we've never stayed a sentence before. So forgive us for that, because my understanding was, we do know that it's 10 to 90 days. However, with the circumstances of another individual who had just had this sanction, maybe there was some mixed messages, because even in closed session, that was something that was like, okay, do we have to do the 10 to 90? So now there's clarification. So I am going to take Alderman Haas's recommendation on the amendment, and we will agree. Are we in agreement that we
Yeah,
will
we
go?
should vote on that.
We need to vote, so, okay.
So I made a motion, and is there a second?
Second?
Okay, Alderman Rote,
Aye.
Alderman Turner,
Aye.
Alderman Haas,
Aye.
Alderman Halverson? Aye. And the chair votes aye. Okay, so now, in effect, we will go forward. It's going to be a 10-day suspension, stayed sentence, or stayed sanction for the entire period of this next license period to July 2025, with the conditions that if you have any underage service and/or, where were we? Over-serving, thank you, that the 10 days will have to be a closure. So, and I got totally thrown off my game. I was so prepared, so.
I'm sorry.
So, that's okay. Please reiterate what I just said, if you are clear on what I just said.
I'm clear on what you said. It's 10 days stayed for the remainder of the license period for both Ekbar and for Studs Pub. And any violations of over-service or underage individuals will, the committee has then imposed that sentence to take place at that point in time. The police department would be the agents effectuating that order, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, and what will happen going forward, and you asked if they had any statements or comments, so I want to allow that, obviously, but procedurally, I will draft up a document and send it to both of you that outlines the entirety of this, so you have that in writing and know what's going on. Okay, sorry, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
And for our two tavern owners, I want to add another point too. Although you have this 10 days potentially hanging over you for the rest of this year and the first greater than 6 months of next year until the licensing period, if there are events, I still want to encourage you and your bartenders to call the police if necessary. Please do not get the idea, I can't have any police contacts because then they're going to bring down this 10 days on us. If there are police contacts, if you need to call the police, number one. And number two, I think that this committee, if there is a situation that would come before us, we look very favorably upon a situation when it's the bartender or the bar owner or bar employee who contacted the police rather than someone else.
Alderman Haas, thank you so much, because he said it just the way it is. And we do not want you to walk out of here thinking that exactly what Alderman Haas said, that there's no punitive in saying, okay, you did the right thing. There's plenty of bar owners that have to use the West Dallas PD. That's what they're there for. Alderman Haas? I'm sorry, Alderman Halverson? Okay.
Sorry, I was agreeing with you. I didn't realize I
Okay, nod your head. So I think enough has been said. I think you got the message. At this time, I'm just going to ask, do you have anything that you would like to offer back to the committee? All right. All right, then,
Madam
Attorney
Chair,
Serwin?
one more point of clarification. The last time we did this, Attorney Decker had recommended that the threshold level to hit that would be based on probable cause, which is a legal term that essentially would mean that the police are able to issue a citation. That would avoid the circumstance where police don't think there's enough to go there but still have attended or gone to the bar. Is that the same motion or that the same standard that the committee is asking for now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, well, thank you both for coming. All right.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome. All right, looks like we have completed our agenda. Is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we are adjourned.